Daily Trust News Center, this is the News Hour.
On News Hour tonight, as ECOWAS deadline expires at midnight, anxiety rises in Nigeria and Niger border communities. As residents' doctor strike bites heart, Nigerians appeal to government to return to negotiating table. Serap sues President Tinubu over failure to publish spending details of 400 billion fuel subsidy savings. And on the foreign scene, 30 killed as passenger train derails in Pakistan. Hello and welcome to News Hour on Trust TV. I am Abdurrahman Omar. Thanks for joining. Nigeria's military junta has few hours to reinstate ousted President Mohamed Bazoum to power or face the possibility of military action from the regional bloc ECOWAS. Last Sunday, West African leaders gave the coup leaders a week to comply with its demands, or it will take all measures, which may include the use of force. But in Nigeria's neighbor Nigeria, where the bulk of the troops are likely to come from, voices against the involvement of the military are growing louder. The two countries also have close ethnic and historical ties. On Saturday, the Nigerian Senate urged the government to look at political and diplomatic options. And in the northern Nigerian city of Sokoto, bordering Niger, which is home to the Army's 8th Division, the anxiety is increasing. It sits on a major junction on the road leading to Niger and is likely to be a mustering point for troops before any military action. The serenity of Sokoto's residential neighborhoods belies the heightened tension in the city and the wider northwestern state. Sokoto city's sprawling suburbs of Sabon Gari Grafshi is predominantly inhabited by people from Niger. They fear that military intervention by ECOWAS could greatly affect their family members and even jeopardize their own security here in Nigeria. In the meantime, communities in Katsina State, which are on the borders with Niger, have warned that any military action against Nigeria's neighbor could trigger the worst humanitarian crisis ever on the African continent. Residents of Jibia, one of such border towns, believe that military action will escalate the already fragile security situation on the frontline states, which have been devastated by insecurity for over a decade. Abdullahi Ahmadi completes the report.
The atmosphere is tense, and there is a feeling of uncertainty among Jibia residents. The anxiety is heightened as the clock ticks towards the end of the ultimatum given to Niger's military junta to restore civil rule.
It affects so many things, not only my business, so many businesses. All the businesses, they have already crippled all the businesses, even the transportation, food, buying and selling of goods and services, all the businesses has already been crippled.
I will not wish to live and see Niger and Nigeria at war, because it sounds ridiculous and embarrassing for twin brothers fighting each other while we know the end will be sham. As I speak, the price of every food item, rice, maize, beans, millet and guinea corn, is above 50,000 naira per bag. The 50-kilometer Katsina-Jibia road looks deserted, with heavy security presence extorting money from the few motorists plying the road. Mogamar-Jibia border control post looks like a ghost house, with only few unfriendly security operatives enforcing the presidential directives of ensuring total closure of all land borders with Niger Republic. Residents along the Nigeria-Niger border are feeling the crunch of the impasse. They are warning Nigeria and other ECOWAS countries that any military action against the Niger Republic could spell doom. It seems those at the top are not aware of the difficulties we are facing. Look, in Jibia here, you can't go beyond 2 kilometers outside the town without you being kidnapped or killed. And our leaders are grooming for war. It's unfortunate and senseless. The ever-busy Jibia Motor Park is now filled with empty vehicles. There are no passengers, and once again, businesses in the border towns have been disrupted. Back in Katsina, these heavy trucks loaded with assorted food items, animal feeds, and other goods heading to Jibia have been prevented from proceeding for over a week. Truck drivers wonder why customs officials prevented them from reaching their destinations, but the customs officers are just doing their job. It could be recalled that the Controller General of the Nigeria Customs Service was at Magamar Jibia Border Control Post to enforce the presidential directive of border closure and ensure strict compliance. Abdullahi Ismayamadi, Trust Television News, Katsina.
The management of National Youth Service Corps NYSC has appealed to Nigerians to disregard a video circulating on the social media alleging that Corps members will be deployed to Niger Republic by the federal government to restore democracy in the country. NYSC Director, Press and Public Relations Eddie Mogwa, in a statement in Abuja, said that there was no iota of truth in the story, adding that it was fabricated by the Pobeo. He added that law enforcement agencies will stop at nothing to bring the purveyor of the story to justice. Now, residents of Jos, the Plateau State capital, are appealing to the federal government to return to the negotiating table with members of the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors. The resident doctors had embarked on an indefinite industrial action in July following what they describe as the failure of the Nigerian government to meet their demands. This came after the expiration of a 2-week ultimatum earlier issued to the government. Ado Musa completes the report.
Following the expiration of an ultimatum on July 19, the association had down tools indefinitely to press home their demands. After the declaration of the indefinite strike, residents say services at the Jos University Teaching Hospital have become skeleton, with only consultants and nurses attending to patients. Before the strike commenced, over 80% of the work in the hospital was carried out by resident doctors. The residents say, with absence of the resident doctors, the workload is too much of the consultants and nurses to handle.
They should try and reach a negotiation on whatever demands that they want. Health, they say, is wealth. With the current situation in the country, we all know how tough the economy is. We don't want to add medical issues to it. You don't want people that cannot even afford these basic health facilities in the first place and then manage to get it and then don't get the services that they require. So please, as an indigene, it's going to affect me negatively, because now I cannot go to the hospitals and get basic health care facilities. I would not see anybody to attend to me.
The residents are therefore calling on government to negotiate with the striking doctors so that they can return to their duties.
I'm calling on the government first to meet to the demand of the demands of these doctors, and of course I want to also ask the doctors to put on some human face and know that what they are doing is dealing with humanity, and so they should also find some level of compromise and come back to work for the safety, for the sake of humanity.
The implication cannot be overemphasized. As it is now, many patients have been discharged from the hospitals because the number of available consultants are not able to take care of these people properly. So you see, this hurriedly discharging of people, it can have a negative effect, because you don't know if that person has been able to receive the required number of treatments that will make that person to sustain the health status while being discharged.
Association of the Resident Doctors on Saturday announced plans to commence a daily peaceful protest from Wednesday if the government fails to meet its demand. Ado Musa, Trust TV News, Jos.
Attacks on communities along Birnungwari axis by the bandits, terrorists and other criminal elements have been a source of concerns to commuters plying the road. The commuters say bandit operations left many stranded on Thursday on the road for almost 24 hours. Trustee Bisbella Musa speaks to the commuters on their predicament along Birnungwari Road amidst the renewed operation by bandits and other criminal elements.
Birnungwari axis has been suffering from banditry and terrorism for years. Many lives were lost, communities were also displaced by the bandits, business activities were also crippled despite series of security interventions. However, in the recent past, the security situation improved with commuters plying the Birnungwari axis. However, bandit activities is now resurging along the road, with drivers narrating their ugly experience on the road. The road is bad. The security situation is deteriorating. I was driving on the road and bandits blocked the road. I had to go back to a military checkpoint and stay there for a while before the military escorted us and passed the danger zone. 2 people were shot on the road and one of them died. The bandit activities resurfaced between Udawa, Kuriga and Birnungwari. As we speak, drivers from Birnungwari are yet to arrive Kaduna because of the bandits on the road. The road leading to Birnungwari is now deserted. It takes courage of the Trust TV crew to visit the road, as only few commuters who dare to travel reach their destination safely. We plied the road, expecting the worst. Like yesterday, they opened fire on commuters, but they escaped death. And now, I want to go back to Birnungwari, but drivers from Birnungwari were stranded on the road and are yet to reach Kaduna. In the last 2 weeks, they kill people every day. Though there were security operatives at some locations, but they were not enough on the road. Salisu Isa, a driver plying Birnungwari Road, and Haris Idris, a passenger, recount their experience and the number of relatives they lost to banditry in the area. I can't recall the number of my colleagues who were driving with me that were killed by the bandits. They killed my brother and my younger brother and other relatives, and one of my siblings was released by the bandits recently. The visit by the then presidential candidate of the APC, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, during campaign rekindled hope that the security challenges bedeviling the people in Birnungwari and environs will be over.
I don't know whether bandits knew that or not, but we serve them notice again that we will not relent in an effort to eliminate banditry and violence killing in Nigeria. We want the president to fulfill the promise he made at the Emir's Palace in Birnungwari that he will deal with security challenges. We are now being faced with serious security challenges. I am calling on the government to help us. They kidnap people on the road and farms. The Deputy Police Public Relations Officer ASP Mansour Hassan, when contacted on the phone, said he will find out from the DPO of the said area where bandits attack commuters before commenting, adding that security agencies are on top of the situation along Birnungwari axis. Bella Musa, Trust TV News, Kaduna.
We now have joining us via Zoom Professor Kabiru Matu, is a professor of political science, to discuss the expiration of deadline in Niger. Hello, can you hear me, Professor? Thank you so much for joining us. Professor. Now, let's dive right into it. Now, Professor, what are the immediate actionable points for ECOWAS after the expiration of the deadline to Niger at midnight tonight? Prof, can you hear me? All right, it seems we lost our guest, but maybe he might join us in our subsequent bulletin. The Bauchi Police Command has arrested 5 suspects for various crimes ranging from armed robbery, burglary to pawn snatching. The spokesperson of the command, SP Ahmed Wakil, stated this on Sunday in a statement made available to newsmen. In Bauchi, he said the 5 suspects were arrested for committing different offences in different parts of the state. He said the command recovered exhibit that included a Jinchen motorcycle AX100 model, machetes, den guns, an axe, a knife, cutlasses, stick laptops, and different models of pawns. Among others, the spokesperson said an investigation revealed that the suspects belong to a notorious group that specialized in terrorizing innocent citizens' houses within the Bauchi metropolis and robbing them of valuables. Wakil said the suspects during an investigation confessed to their crimes, adding that they were currently cooperating with the detectives in mentioning some of their accomplices. He said the suspect will be profiled and charged in court without delay. Wakil said the Commissioner of Police, Awal Muhammad, lauded the efforts of the operatives for their unrelenting commitment and professionalism in discharging their statutory duties to curb all forms of criminality in the state. All right, Professor, it seems we have you now. Can you hear me? Yes, I can hear you. All right, let's just right into it. Now, Prof, what are the immediate actionable points for ECOWAS after the expiration of the deadline to Niger at midnight tonight?
Well, I think it's time for, the leadership of the economic community to reflect on the cost implication of staging a war, with the Niger Republic or using military force to remove the juntas that are there, due to several factors. And the factors is bedeviled by the fact that the entire sub-region itself is confronted with a tremendous challenge of insecurity over a very long period of time. And secondly, the seeming antecedents of military intervention in the body politic of many countries within the, sub-region. This is an unhealthy development, which in my view must be, thoroughly thought out by the leadership of the sub-region so that we don't just get into a war, with one member country for the sake of, reinstating democratic rule. I think the important thing that ECOWAS, as led by President Tinubu, must do now is to continue to intensify, with the blockade, the pressure, the sanctions, and so on and so forth that have been imposed on Niger Republic, while negotiation, on the other hand, is ongoing in order to be able to address this problem. I do not see military solution as, immediate, not an aberration. I do not see it as a way out of the current crisis in view of the fact that any attempt at that will continue to perhaps instigate and embolden not just the junta in Niger Republic, but equally and very importantly too, is the impact on the mobilization that it will have on the generality of the populace to support the illegitimacy that is currently, going on in the country. So I think what we must do is to devise ways and means of, taking a more hardline decision of, political action rather than deploying soldiers to Niger Republic, which in my view has the consequences, like I did say, of winning the heart and minds of, several critical groups within Niger Republic, and thus, therefore, making any possible military intervention, a fast exercise. To me, the most important thing, like I did say, is to deploy strategic, political action as has been taken so far, by Nigeria and other, ECOWAS countries in order to put pressure on the soldiers in Nigeria to look at the way out by trying to perhaps engage into a meaningful discussion that will lead to the reinstatement of a democratically elected government led by Mohamed Bazoum.
Now, the junta in Niger has drawn a hard line, cut diplomatic ties with Nigeria, Togo, France and the US, and is even inviting support from Russian mercenaries. What will this interplay of politics have on peaceful resolution of the crisis?
Well, this is obviously, coming on a platter of gold. This is what you expect in the murky waters of international politics. There will always be winners and losers. There will always be alliances and counter-alliances. I'm not surprised that the junta will come hard on Nigeria and other countries that are not in support of the military action. And I think if you take the average, the global community is averse to military rule. Military rule is out of fashion. And for whatever reason, like I did say, it's unfortunate that West Africa or Africa in general is taking a turn of what happened in the 1960s, soon after, colonial rule, where it became a fashion on the part of young military officers to topple a democratically elected government. This is the unfortunate dimension that we are facing. And I'm worried more because of the stance of countries like Burkina Faso, like Mali, and Guinea that are already under military rule. So I think we need to be really very careful, and that's where the strategic, political craftsmanship of leaders will come in. We must not be dragged into war by perhaps the recalcitrance of a section of the military elite in Niger Republic. We should be able to deploy our, thinking capacity on how to, without, sending a single soldier to Niger Republic, deal with this problem. And I think Nigeria and ECOWAS have the capacity to just do that. The military may be, recalcitrant for now. They may be insistent. They may be for dragging. But obviously, when the pressure gets tough, they will want to negotiate and, of course, get back to the civil political rule that was in place.
All right. Many of the opinions in northern Nigeria centered around the negative impact on Nigeria if ECOWAS resorts to use the use of force against Niger. We're hearing things like Nigeria and Niger are like twins, that Nigerians have even Nigerian relatives right across the border. Is this just a sentiment terrorism for you, or is Nigeria facing an imminent threat?
Well, I think it is, of course, an expression of the sentiments of several people. Remember, Niger and Nigeria share over 1,000 kilometers of border from Borno State down to Kebbi State, which is well over 1,500 kilometers. So, and of course, the way the countries were drawn after the Berlin Conference was such that it did not take into cognizance, the historical characteristics and, similarities of people on both sides of the borders. They always they simply decided to cut spheres of influence and continue to dominate, the continent. So that, sentiment is not there. But I'm not looking at the entire crisis from the point of view of sentiment. I'm looking at it strategically from the cost of a possible military intervention vis-a-vis the realization of the objective of reinstating a democratically elected government. I think by the time the first shot is fired, the possibilities of resolving the crisis within the parameters of political intercourse would have severely either been defeated or decimated. I want to think, and I'm saying, with all sense of sincerity, yes, Niger and Nigeria, are similar, especially from the northern fringes of the country, but that is not a guarantee that the Niger Republic should, act otherwise, or the military junta in Niger should act otherwise. The fashion across the globe today is a democratically elected civilian government, and that's what existed in Niger until very recently. I think we must pay our attention and focus more on the area of, what is the best method and strategy that Nigeria and ECOWAS desire to adopt or, put in place in order to reverse, this ugly military interregnum that has happened in Niger. That's more important as far as I'm concerned than any sentimental issue that is being raised. We are already in the midst of, a very serious internal crisis by way of insecurity, be it the Boko Haram insurrection or the, banditry exercise that is happening throughout the Northwest and some parts of North Central and Northeast and the entire country. So we have a lot in our hands. We have a lot of crises that we need to manage. And I want to think, therefore, that with tremendous pressure on the part of the government and ECOWAS, we can achieve the objectives, of restating democratic rule in Niger Republic without necessarily firing a single shot. Forget about relationships, forget about, whatever anybody may be saying about it. I think it is a regional agreement that the leadership in West Africa and all over Africa and the world at large is now frowning at any possible military intervention in the polity of any one particular nation. So, be it Niger or Burkina Faso or anywhere that, the soldiers will simply just wake up in the morning and desire to go back to the realm of politics. I think that is what is ugly, that's what's outdated, and that's what we must all, fight against in order to be able to restore the sanctity and sanity of civil democratic dispensation. People give many reasons. One of them is, of course, the fact that what they may call instant abuses and the things being done by the political class. But as far as I'm concerned, as the simple saying goes, it is
Prof, can you hear me?
better to have a civilian government.
All right, Prof. So before we let you go, what are the implications? Some point to a worsening security situation in states bordering Niger and even a humanitarian crisis that will spill across the borders of Nigeria. Do you agree?
I do agree sincerely. Even if you take a look at what is obtained under peacetime, that's under situations before today, you find that, there is hardly any immigration or custom control that can deter the Nigerians from coming into Nigeria at any point in time. As young people, we used to cross over from Nigeria around Jibia to Niger Republic as students, for weekend and fun and so on and so forth. So the similarities are there, the relationship is there. It's likely that in the event that we have military, intervention in Niger, it is going to bring up a lot of humanitarian crisis. It is also going to worsen the already fragile, security situation in the entire sub-region. So I think, like I said, I would like to close with the fact that the government and the economic community have the capacity to continue to intensify pressure by way of sanction and, other forms and methods of isolation so that the junta themselves in Nigeria Republic will find governance unattractive and therefore begin to think of the idea of instituting the government.
All right, Prof, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Prof is a professor of political science from University of Abuja. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us this evening.
Sir, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
You're watching the News Hour on Trust TV. Coming off after the break, we take a look at modern traditional medicine for healthcare. Details of these and more after the break. Do stay with us.
It was never a consensus. We did all our best. You see, in politics, you give your contribution to the best of your ability.
If you want, I'll forward to you this statement. You go to this bank and verify.
But there are people who say not spending money is not a virtue in itself.
Let me finish.
Well, there's so much to be done.
Let me finish. Now, you don't allow me to explain myself.
The recent development shows abductions are now a factor of informants embedded in community.
It's not about the people of Katsina to say that, no, during my administration I was able to stop insecurity. No, it's about collective responsibility for all of us.
And what we should ask ourselves is not what has been seen, is the life better? Are there more people who are unemployed who are not become employed? Is the level of corruption has gone down? Is there inclusion? All those issues.
We're actually a gas country with associated oil. Our focus has always been on oil, that we have never paid significant attention to gas.
To do it effectively, we need to have honest conversation with ourselves. Government needs to come down from its high horse and communicate with the people and build trust.
There must be a solution. We cannot continue this way. They must come back to the table and agree. So whose child will do deny education? All these children that sit for jam, they want to go to higher institutions.
But just a short while ago, you were saying that why bring 10 children when you cannot cater for them? So why bring more universities when you cannot cater for the existing?
Welcome back. In case if you are just joining us, this is the News Hour on Trust TV, and here is the recap of some of our top stories. As ECOWAS deadline expires at midnight, anxiety rises in Nigeria-Niger border communities. As resident doctors' strike buys heart, Nigerians appeal to government to return to negotiating table. His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has on Sunday evening in Abuja met with governors of states that share boundary with Niger Republic. At the State House in Abuja, the meeting was part of consultations by the President on the situation in Niger. The governors in attendance were Ahmed Aliyu of Sokoto, Umar Namadi Jigawa, Maimala Buni of Yobe State, Idris Nasir of Kebbi, and Dr. Dukorada of Katsina State. Meanwhile, locals speak on resurgence of banditry in Sokoto, Zamfara. This is in a continuation of our long piece on resurgence of banditry in Zamfara and Sokoto states and the ongoing military operation to address banditry in the northwest. Yushau Ibrahim continues from where he stopped on Saturday.
wanda suka zo suka dauki wani mutum ya shi kuma suka shi kudade hannun shi sannan kamin wannan ma da rana sun shigo bakin titin jirgi irin mutanen da ke zuwa gonaki da sauransu sun zo sun rakaɓe su sun aishi mashin ɗan da sauransu sun wata mutane a takaice dai daga cikin garin tsafe baka da damar da zaka nufi hanyar da titin tare daji kai tafiya ta misalin kilomita guda ba tare da waɗannan barkatun ba saboda suna nan suna yawo kowane lokaci.
Wato al'amarin da ke faruwa bangaren tsafe ta yamma muna samun matsaloli ne sosai game da bandits wanda ni kaina da yanzu bayanin da ake da ni ina da matsaloli da yawa. Me matsalolin mu yanzu ko kai bai mu shiga muka yace saboda yan bandits nan sun hana a nan ma shekaran jiya nan sun bugo waya cewa a faɗi masu mutanen tsafe wanda ke zaune tsafe cewa daga nan zuwa Kasin wato wani dutse ne da ake ce makasin za su ba su taron kuɗi naira 500,000 kana daga kason abin da ya can yamma za su ba su taron kuɗi naira 800,000.
Al'amuransu ya fara dawa domin suna ɗaukan muna mutane ranar 5 ga watan nan sun zo sun halbi yaron mu mai suna Uzairu ɗan yayana ne wanda bayan sun halbe shi sun halbe wani yaro shi ma ɗan yayana ne mai suna Ibrahim. Bayan haka sun ɗauki mutum 4 daga ciki amma yau safiyar garin nan Allah ya taimake su mutum 4 din nan sun samu kubuta. Allah ya dawo mana da su yanzu haka ɗaya yana keta ɗaya kuma yana marbe a wani ƙauye ɗayan shi ne ba mu san inda yake ba ɗaya kuma yana nan asibiti.
The bandits have also placed a levy of 500,000 and 800,000 on Hawan Kasim and Kurar Mota communities, where the inhabitants are expected to pay the amount before they are allowed to cultivate their farms.
Ya muna buƙatar taimako ga Allah da gwamnati ta taimaka mana saboda gaskiya yanzu yankin tsafe ga baki ɗaya ba mai zuwa daji ka je daji ko a ɗauke ka ko kuma su halbe ka yanzu haka munan ɓangaren yamma ga baki ɗaya abun ba daɗi haka gabas ba muna buƙatar a taimaka mana gaskiya.
Security experts have attributed the upsurge in banditry in Sokoto and Zamfara state to the peace and the harmony enjoyed by some communities in the two states during the conduct of the last general election.
I will say, since election has been concluded, winners has been announced, inaugurations have taken place in almost 28 states, and that now things are calm. The society has come back to its normal activities. And that, as we said, the insurgency is back. Yes, everybody can testify to that. And if you can see this communities that have been attacked by bandits are communities close to Niger Republic. That's why I said most of these bandits flew back to Niger Republic. Such, because during election, they know it's a serious business that almost everybody is back to his own locality. And penetration may be hard, if I may say. So now that the area is calm, they came back with their activities. Recent activities of this banditry, if you can see, are all state or local government that are neighboring Niger Republic, ranging from Sabon Birni, Lela, wherever to be precise. So I think this should be another factor that made this object of such back again.
The initial engagement was no longer forthcoming, and on that basis they feel they were neglected after the election. And not only that, some of these bandit leaders are associated with one political party or the other, and on that basis we've seen a change in government in Sokoto, for instance, in Zamfara and other places. And some of these bandit leaders that are associated with a political party A or political party B were not actually happy with the outcome of the election. That is a factor on its own. And not only that, we've also seen some politicians that lost the election putting pressure on the bandit that they should please come out and fight and also make the space highly ungovernable. And on that basis, some of these bandit leaders actually came out clearly fighting, kidnapping, killing people, and telling people that they have to pay the price of the election because they did not vote for their own political party. That factor is also there. The weather has also changed. After the election, we've seen rainy season coming in, and that also contributed because that is the period in which they operate. That was when they mostly engage in kidnapping because of the vegetational cover. That was when they involved in levies, particularly agricultural levies, were also imposed during that period. So not only that, you see a lot of issues related to why this bandit must act. And not only that, as I said, the military pressure has also gone down after the elections, and on that basis, they feel they will have a free world. And not only the military pressure alone, there was a gap in the sense that a new government has actually been inaugurated. It has not set in fully, and also the outgoing government is packing. And on that basis, that particular gap also created an ample opportunity for these bad guys to strike. And on that basis, I think the combination of these factors led to the rise and increase in the act of banditry, and also the collaboration between the bandits and the terrorists continued at an unprecedented scale, because it was after the election that we see some of these terrorist leaders moving down into the northwest. Some of them were in Katsina, in Zamfara, in eastern part of Sokoto, also in Kaduna, and their traditional home in Niger and some part of the...
For peace to be sustained in the banditry-prone areas in the two states, the governments, security agencies, traditional authorities, and the communities must work together to achieve desired results in the ongoing fight against banditry.
My approach to this issue is, let us have a deeper and a clearer understanding of the phenomenon. Because of what? Because of its complexity. There are quite a number of innocent citizens that have no option other than to live in the midst of these bandits. We need to identify, we need to separate the bandits, that is the bad guys, and also those that were forced to actually stay with them under the regime of force. I think that is important. There is actually a position for the military, and in my own opinion, the military have a role to play. And what is the role? The role of the military is to create an enabling environment for what? For discussions, for dialogue. Because the military will never be in the forest or in areas controlled by these bandits forever. By extension, they must leave sooner or later, and let them create an enabling environment. And that enabling environment should create an opportunity for a more detailed and comprehensive engagements that will address the root causes, engagements that will address the immediate factors actually responsible for this particular issue. By extension, I am advocating for a non-kinetic approach. The military should clear the ground as they did on the eve of the election, create an enabling environment for dialogue. And this dialogue should be 100% community-driven. By extension, people will have the opinion that there were a series of dialogues in the past, but these dialogues actually failed, and they failed woefully. Yes, they are meant to fail right from the beginning, because they were not meant to address the issue in totality. They were meant to provide a cosmetic exercise to address some of the immediate issues, not the root causes. This problem is a local problem. It requires a local solution. State governors, for instance, we've seen them actually moving and also engaging the bandit leaders, snapping pictures, photos, and also having a media show with the bandit leaders. That is not a solution to the problem. How I wish this time around the federal government will take this initiative and then hand it over to the communities. Let them come out with a community-driven solution to it. That is the only way that, in my opinion, this issue will be holistically and completely addressed, because 95% of those bandit leaders are known, and to a very large extent, they were actually living in their fathers' and mothers' land, meaning in the village in which they were born. And no community leader, no traditional authority in the Northwest will tell you that he doesn't know the number of bandits and the names of bandits and their family history in his location. It is a lie, and in my opinion, it is a big lie. And if we want to address this issue very seriously, very holistically, once and for all, is we should create an enabling environment and give the community leaders the authority and the mandate to engage and engage constructively with these people. I am sure banditry will be a theme of the past.
The aspirations of residents of many communities in the two states is to see the end of banditry activities in their localities, to enable them live in peace and harmony.
The Katsina State government has frowned at the professional misconduct of customs officers in the state over the last 5 years, which he said had led to the deaths of innocent residents. Deputy Governor Farouk Jobe outlined some of these negative tendencies when he received the Comptroller General of Nigeria Customs Service, Adewale Adene, in Government House. Abdullahi Yamadi has more on this.
There are many tales of woe narrated by Katsina residents detailing what they suffered in the hands of customs officials. Ironically, the deputy governor has also had a personal experience of brutality from customs officials along Jibia Road a few years ago.
Let me go, leave you as a driver, so that by the time when you do all the due diligence and you get the necessary information, you can release the vehicle to us. He said I was also under arrest. I said, why should we arrest you? On what basis? You have the right to take the vehicle, and I even surrendered my driver so we can go with him. He tore even my dress. I left the car there, and I insisted to him. I said, look, I can't be in this car, and you can't arrest me. For whatever reason. Then you can go with the car. I stopped a commercial vehicle, joined it.
Also outlined were cases involving some commissioners and most recently the current chief of staff, Katsina Government House. There have been other reported cases of customs brutality and killing of innocent residents in the recent past, which the government urged the new customs leadership to address to prevent possible breakdown of law and order. The Comptroller General of Customs, Adewale Adeni, promised to regulate conduct of officers handling weapons. He promised that incidents raised by the Deputy Governor would be thoroughly investigated and perpetrators would be brought to book.
We will call on the communities around the border to show understanding to the objective of this exercise and express the hope, a sincere hope, that current efforts aimed at addressing this issue at the diplomatic front will yield dividend fruits, if not immediately, but hopefully in the immediate future.
The Controller General was in Katsina State to enforce the presidential directive to close the country's border with Niger Republic. Abdullahi Izuma Yamadi, Trust Television News, Katsina.
In the meantime, the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project (SERAF) has filed a lawsuit against President Bola Tinubu at the Federal High Court over the failure to publish spending details of money saved from fuel subsidy on premium motor spirit, PMS, popularly called petrol. SERAF said the litigation followed reports that the federal government had saved 400 billion within the 4 weeks of the implementation of the removal of subsidy on petrol policy. A statement issued on Sunday in Lagos by SERAF's Deputy Director, Kolowole Oluwadare, and that the organization is seeking an order of the court to direct and compel Tinubu to publish details of spending of about 400 billion saved as a result of the removal of subsidy on petrol from May 29, 2023. In the suit, SERAF explained that Nigerians have the right to know how the savings are spent. Disclosing the spending details of the savings will reduce the risk of corruption in the spending of the funds. Ahead of the presentation of judgment by the Presidential Election Petitions Court in Abuja in the petition he filed against the victory of President Bola Tinubu in the February 25, 2023 presidential election, the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party (PDP) in that election, Atiku Abubakar, has suffered a legal blow in the United States of America. A circuit court of Cook County, Illinois County in the U.S. has dismissed the lawsuit filed by the PDP candidate to get access to President Tinubu's confidential educational records at Chicago State University. The former vice president had filed the suit seeking to subpoena the university, but later withdrew the case. According to the circuit court papers, Justice Patrick J. Hennigan dismissed the case without prejudice. In the judgment dated July 31, 2023, the judge held that the petitioner's subpoena in this case is withdrawn, and thus Chicago State University will not be deposed pursuant to the subpoena in this case. Ruling on the matter, Justice Hennigan said the case is dismissed without prejudice and resolved all matters pending before the court. Atiku had claimed that President Bola Tinubu did not attend Chicago State University. Meanwhile, a leading Chicago State official has again confirmed that the president is a long-time and a distinguished alumni of the university. In an affidavit, the registrar of Chicago State University, Caleb Westbach, deposed that Bola Ahmed Tinubu graduated and was awarded a degree by Chicago State University on June 22, 1979. Meanwhile, the Federal Capital Territory Administration and a group of concessionaires have signed an agreement to recommence the ongoing street parking, otherwise known as the Park and Pay scheme in Abuja. The Federal Executive Council on May 2023 approved the Park and Pay policy in Zone A, Wuse 2 and Otako, with Najek Limited as its concessionaire, and an expected revenue of 11.875 billion, and in Zone B, Maitama and Garki 1, with its concessionaire as Messrs Automatum Technic Bowman Nigeria Limited, with an expected revenue of 15.05 billion, both of which were awarded at a combined 908.3 billion for a 10-year term each. The FCTA Permanent Secretary Olusade Adesola, who signed the agreement on behalf of the administration, said the move was to promote a culture of orderliness and organization, adding that the initiative will decongest the city and make motoring a more pleasant experience. He explained that under the scheme, parking lots will be provided for motorists, while those who indulge in the wrong parking will be fined. Adesola said the introduction of the scheme was with the consent of the 6 area councils, noting that, however, that implementation will not begin until residents had been fully sensitized and enlightened about the scheme. Now, alternative medicine practitioners in Nigeria are asking President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to sign into law a bill that would allow them to contribute to the development of the nation's healthcare with a view to complementing conventional medical practice. The modern traditional medical practitioners made the plea while speaking to newsmen in Abuja on the imperative of alternative medicine and building a stronger healthcare delivery system in the country. Trust TV's Shafiu Suleiman reports.
Traditional or alternative medicine practice in Nigeria has been in existence before the advent of orthodox medicine. It has been in use for the cure of several ailments, but lack of scientific proof and unregulated practice has been undermining its efficacy and usage amongst the people. It is against this backdrop that the alternative medicine practitioners want President Bola Tinubu to sign the already passed bill by the National Assembly into law to allow them contribute meaningfully to the healthcare delivery.
You know, if you carry yourself, go many countries, and we are here, and by God great, if you do this bill in council, many achievements will get in Nigeria.
Dr. Bamidele Patoye is the National Secretary of the group. He solicited the support of the federal government in boosting traditional medicine practice across the country.
Traditional medicine is the best medicine that is now taking places in all the other countries, especially in India and other advanced countries. So Nigeria too wanted to equal themselves with these nations in producing traditional medicine to face our health problems.
Unwholesome practice and unprofessional conduct amongst some traditional medicine practitioners, lack of proper regulation and certification have undermined the application and acceptability of alternative medicine practice in Nigeria. Shafiu Suleiman, Trust TV News, Abuja.
And now, away from Nigeria, at least 28 people have been killed after a train traveling from the southern Pakistani port city of Karachi to Abbottabad derailed in the city of Nawabshah in Sindh province. About 50 people have been injured in the accident. 8 coaches of the Hazara Express, which was traveling from Karachi to Abbottabad, derailed near Sahara railway station in Nawabshah, about 275 kilometers from Karachi, the capital of Sindh province. Ijaz Shah, a provincial railway official, told the AFP news agency that several passengers were killed and many others injured in the accident, without providing an exact casualty figure. The Hazara Express is a daily passenger train that leaves the port city of Karachi in the south and takes around 33 hours to reach Havelian in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, some 1,600 kilometers north. At least 2 people have been killed and dozens of others were missing after 2 shipwrecks off the Italian island of Lampedusa. The Italian Coast Guard said on Sunday it had recovered 2 bodies and rescued 57 people following the sinkings. Around 28 people were reported lost at sea by survivors on 1 boat, while 3 were reported missing from the second after a boat went down in a stormy weather on Saturday. Both were rickety iron boats believed to have set off from X-Pax in Tunisia on Thursday. Cultural mediators with the IOM believe there were at least 30 people missing. After speaking to the survivors, an investigation into the shipwrecks has been opened in Agrigento on the nearby Italian island of Sicily. And finally, on sports news, Arsenal gave their hopes of beating Manchester City to the Premier League title a psychological boost as they defeated Pep Guardiola's side on penalties to win the Community Shield. After a largely forgettable 70 minutes in the season, curtain raiser Cole Palmer looked to have won it for City when the substitute called home a stunning strike. But Leandro Trossard equalized in the 101st minute when his shot deflected into the back of the net. That took the game to the spot kicks, where substitute Kevin De Bruyne struck the crossbar before Rodri saw his effort saved and then Fabio Vieira converted to skew the silverware for Arsenal. Arsenal led the Premier League for 248 days last season, but their challenge fell apart in the closing stages as City overtook them to claim the title as part of a treble, along with the Champions League and the FA Cup. Gunners boss Mikel Arteta admitted in the build-up to this game that the end of the last season still hurt and was clearly desperate to get one over City, who beat his side home and away last season. Arsenal's big summer signings Declan Rice, Kai Havertz and Jurrien Timber were all handed their competitive debuts at Wembley. But it looked like it was going to be a familiar story as Havertz failed to convert 2 big opportunities in the first half before Palmer's Stoner put City ahead. But Ateta's side showed impressive spirit to battle to the end and got their reward when substitute Trossard struck before keeping their cool to come out on top in the shootout. And with that, we have come to the end of the Trust TV's news hour. Do not forget to follow us across all our media platforms and our YouTube live stream. I am Abdurrahman Omar. Thanks for watching and bye for now.
From the Daily Trust News Center, this is the News Hour.